All right, everyone, welcome back to Language Arts class. And today we are going to be looking at part 3 of our read-through and discussion of The Adventure of the Speckled Band. So make sure that you are following along or have your text open here to page 5 or in your PDF file, page 7 of the story. Also make sure you have up your Adventure of the Speckled Band worksheet because we are going to continue to fill out clues along the way as we find them. So let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, page 5 of the story or page 7 of your PDF file. And we are picking up here where it says, there was a long silence, during which Holmes leaned his chin upon his hands and stared into the crackling fire. This is a very deep business, he said at last. There are 1,000 details which I should desire to know before I decide upon our course of action. Yet we have not a moment to lose. If we were to come to Stoke Moran today, would it be possible for us to see over these rooms without the knowledge of your stepfather? As it happens, he spoke of coming into town today upon some important business. It is probable that he will be away all day, and that there would be nothing to disturb you. We have a housekeeper now, but she is old and foolish, and I could easily get her out of the way. Excellent. You are not adverse to the trip, Watson? By no means. Then we shall both go. What are you going to do yourself? I have 1 or 2 things which I wish to do now that I am in town, but I shall return by the 12 o'clock train, so as to be here in time for your coming. And you may expect us early in the afternoon. I have myself some small business matters to attend to. Will you not wait and breakfast? No, I must go. My heart is lightened already since I have confided my trouble to you. I shall look forward to seeing you again this afternoon. She dropped her thick black veil over her face and glided from the room. And what do you think of all of it, Watson? Asked Sherlock Holmes, leaning back in his chair. It seems to me a most dark and sinister business. Dark and sinister enough. Yet if the lady is correct in saying that the flooring and the walls are sound and that the door, window, and chimney are impassable, then her sister must have been undoubtedly alone when she met her mysterious end. So this is really the crux of the story. And the mystery is finding out how someone could murder somebody else without using poison and not being able to get to the person because the person is in a completely locked room where we are fairly sure no one went into before she died. So that's the real mystery. How can someone get in here and commit the murder without actually getting in there and committing the murder? That's the real crux of this, the means, if you will, how the murder happens. Okay, going on. What becomes then of these nocturnal whistles, and what of the very peculiar words of the dying woman? I cannot think. When you combine the ideas of whistles at night, the presence of a band of gypsies who are on intimate terms with this old doctor, the fact that we have every reason to believe that the doctor has an interest in preventing his stepdaughter's marriage, the dying allusion to a band, and finally the facts that Mrs. Helen Stoner heard a metallic clang, which might have been caused by one of those metal bars that secured the shutters falling back into place, I think that there is good ground to think that the mystery may have cleared along those lines. But what then did the gypsies do? I cannot imagine. I see many objections to any such theory, and so do I. It is precisely for that reason that we are going to Stoke Moran this day. I want to see whether the objections are fatal or if they may be explained away. But what in the name of the devil? The ejaculation had been drawn from my companion by the fact that our door had been suddenly dashed open, and that a huge man had framed himself in the aperture. His costume was a peculiar mixture of the professional and of the agricultural, having a black top hat, a long frock coat, and a pair of high gaiters, with a hunting crop swinging in his hand. So tall was he that his hat actually brushed the crossbar of the doorway, and his breath seemed to span it across from side to side. A large face seared with 1,000 wrinkles burned yellow with the sun, and marked with every evil passion was turned from one to the other of us, while his deep-set, bile-shot eyes and his high, thin, fleshless nose gave us somewhat the resemblance to a fierce old bird of prey. So this imposing, very tall, very large man burst through the door. Which of you is Holmes? Asked the apparition. My name, sir, but you have the advantage of me, said my companion quietly. I am Dr. Grimsby Roylott of Stoke Moran. "Indeed, doctor," said Holmes blandly. "Pray take a seat." "I will do nothing of the kind. My stepdaughter has been here. I have traced her. What has she been saying to you?" All right, let's stop there. So this is the stepfather who has now come, and it says he traced his stepdaughter. So let's go to our notes here. And let's go ahead and add in Dr. Roylott is suspicious of his daughter. He followed her to Holmes. So he is on to her. So maybe he knows she's been trying to frame him for this murder, or maybe he knows that she is trying to prove that he did it. Maybe he really did do it, and she's trying to prove it, and he wants to stop her from proving it. Right? Both entirely possible right now. All right, let's go ahead and switch back then. "It is a little cold for the time of year," said Holmes. "What has she been saying to you?" screamed the old man furiously. "But I have heard that the crocuses promise well," continued my companion imperturbably. "Ha! You put me off, do you?" said our new visitor, taking a step forward and shaking his honey crop. "I know you, you scoundrel. I have heard of you before. You are Holmes the meddler." So a couple things here. Notice that Holmes is just ignoring his questions. He's just talking about the weather because he's not going to answer any questions about his client. So that's kind of what he's doing here. My friend smiled. "Holmes the busybody." His smile broadened. "Holmes the Scotland Yard jack-in-office." Holmes chuckled heartily. "Your conversation is most entertaining," said he. "When you go out, close the door, for there is a decided drought." So this is Holmes essentially saying, get out and don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out. "I will go when I have had my say. Don't you dare to meddle in with my affairs. I know that Miss Stoner has been here. I traced her. I'm a dangerous man to fall foul of. See here." He stepped swiftly forward, seized the poker, and bent it into a curve with his huge brown hands. "See that you keep yourself out of my grip," he snarled, and hurling the twisted poker into the fireplace, he strode out of the room. So he picks up one of those black fire pokers that you see next to fireplaces, and just using his two hands, bends it. And completely bends it, then throws it in the fireplace, just to show off his strength, and then he walks out. Okay, going on. "He seems a very amiable person," said Holmes, laughing. "I'm not quite so bulky, but if he had remained, I might have shown him that my grip was not much more feeble than his own." As he spoke, he picked up the steel poker and, with a sudden effort, straightened it out again. "Fancy his having the insolence to confound me with the official detective force. This incident gives zest to our own investigation. However, and I only trust that our friend will not suffer from her imprudence in allowing this brute to trace her. And now, Watson, we shall order breakfast, and afterwards I shall walk down to Doctors' Commons, where I hope to get some data which may help us in this matter." So let's go ahead and add right here, Dr. Roylott threatens Holmes, right? Says, get out of this business, stay out of my business anyway, and do not take up Julia's case that she wants you to take up. Or Helen's case, I should say, of Julia being murdered. All right, going back then. It is nearly 1 o'clock when Sherlock Holmes returned from his excursion. He held in his hand a sheet of blue paper, scrawled over with notes and figures. "I have seen the will of the deceased wife," said he. "I determine its exact meaning. I have been obliged to work out the present prices of the investments with which it is concerned. The total income, which at the time of his wife's death was little short of £1,100, is now, through the fallen agricultural prices, not more than 750. Each daughter can claim an income of 250 in case of marriage. It is evident, therefore, that if both girls had married, this beauty would have been a mere pittance, while even one of them would cripple him to a very serious extent. My morning's work has not been wasted, since it proved that he has the very strongest motives for standing in the way of anything of the sort. And now, Watson, this is too serious for dawdling, especially as the old man is aware that we are interesting ourselves in this affair. So if you are ready, we shall call a cab and drive to Waterloo. I should be very much obliged if you would slip your revolver in your pocket. And Ellie's number 2 is an excellent argument with gentlemen who can twist steel pokers into knots. That and a toothbrush are, I think, all we need. So confirm the motive. It says right up here that if Dr. Roylott's stepdaughters marry, then he'll lose essentially a third of the money he's getting because he's getting 750 pounds. He'll lose 250 if either of his daughters marries. And then at the end there, having Holmes bring the pistol just in case things get a little nasty and they have to use it. All right, that should be everything we need for part 3 of the Speckled Band, and I will see you guys next time.